First of all, I want to greet everyone who has gathered here to listen to the topic of national traits in the global economy. I'm very glad to be invited as a speaker to this platform. Thank you very much, Svetlana. And today I'm going to share the research which was made on a global scale about the derailers and enablers of the success, as well as of startups and global cultures, corporates. And according to the statistics, we know that 90% of all startups fail at their initial phase, and a half of all enterprises fail to reach their top position of their potential success. And today we are going to speak about the national characters and the national traits which influence that very process. So in order to speak about national traits, we are to speak about culture. What is culture in general? According to the definition of the renowned multiculturalist Geert Hofstede, culture is the social programming of the mind that distinguishes the members of one category of people from another. We have different layers of cultures, and in order to understand it better, so I will show them to you how they are divided. International, national, that is the level which we are going to speak about today. And I just show you the others that are present in our society. Regional, professional, educational, gender culture, class culture, which is not common to all the societies, and most vividly they are seen in India, for example. Religious, generational, this eternal conflict of parents and children, for example. Ethnic culture, which is suitable for some certain ethnic group. Corporate culture, so we're speaking about the influence of national culture to the corporate culture today. And personal culture, which is built through national values and one's own conscious things that we build in our mindset, which are attributive only to our personality. So let's move on. When we speak about the social programming, we have to understand what does that exactly mean. The social programming of mind consists of three things, of three categories. The first is national values. The national values comprise worldview, core beliefs, and attitudes, which are in their turn based on historical heritage of the country. For example, Russia, a huge country with vast territory, which from the very beginning of its formation as a state was enduring different attacks from all over the world, from all the sides. And in this respect, it developed the so-called frontier spirit, which we'll talk about later. Core beliefs. Core beliefs is the those values and opinions about what is right, what is wrong, what is moral, what is unmoral, also coming religious aspects, and attitudes towards different social institutions, to the people, to the communication. And since I talked about Russia's vastness, I'd like to speak also about the territory of Switzerland, which is much, much smaller than Russia, and which is, because of the very, very small territory, has quite different approach to its territory in comparison with Russia, which is vast and in part neglected at some places. Every square centimeter in Switzerland is properly taken care of, and people are very conscious about their territorial aspect. So the second category of social programming of mind is communication patterns, speech styles, and listening habits. They comprise such things as whether I speak attentively and listen to my counterpart attentively, or just pretending to be listening to him, whether I want to listen actively and understand what he's going to say, or I'm just waiting for my turn to put in a word. If I'm going to speak first and impose my opinions, or am I preferring to let the others speak first and gather information? And the third category is the concept of time and space. It is the attitude to planning, the performance, that is execution, and the physical distance. Concept of time and space, when we speak about Russia and Switzerland, have absolutely different approaches. So it's very important to understand that Russia belongs to the cultures with multi-active description. It means that in terms of time, Russians are not planning the things that way as Swiss do. So they are switching from one task to another. And the sustained effort is in this respect, is the drawback in the Russian mentality. And Russian people, and which are having to complete the task either on the daily basis or in a business environment, very often drag time and push their limits to the deadline. So what is important to understand is that there is no bad or good cultures. There are different cultures, and every culture has formed itself not because of nothing, but it has its purpose. It has its purpose, and we shall speak about it later. And now I want to give you one more insight about what culture is. Culture is a mindset, a mental product of geographical, economical, political, and ideological environment based on historical heritage. That is, every folk, every nation, it develops its own culture in order to survive, in order to function the way it thinks it should function in order to continue. So here I made a table of national programming which affects business management in Russia and Switzerland. So I'm not going to read all of them now. You can take a glimpse yourself. What I'm going to do is to give the cases where the friction points can arise between two cultures when they are cooperating with each other. For example, I have the case of a company, a consulting company, which is based in Switzerland, who has two equal partners. This is a company who carries out their activities sometimes in Russia and sometimes in Switzerland. And a very interesting fact that they are confronted with is that according to national value of Russia, for example, hierarchy and patriarchal values, in Russia, the Russian partner, who is actually a male, takes the upper hand of his Swiss partner, who is a female. And the Russian customers themselves take him as the superior, as more charismatic, as the one who has more expertise, and they avoid contact with the Swiss partner, preferring to coming direct to the Russian one. That's a very interesting case, because in Switzerland, when they do things in Switzerland, this Swiss female partner has the equal rights with her Russian partner, and here in Switzerland, they are absolutely equal, which is also based on the values of Switzerland, like democratic society, large diversity, and just the freedom of expression and diversity that is very, very popular here. Well, and on the whole, in the West, where Russia is not that 100% coincide with it. Well, communication patterns. Russians. So now delivering some secrets about the Russians. They are direct, perhaps you noticed yourself. Blunt in speech, like don't like small talk, and can speak their minds and being honest. And sometimes they startle their Western partners with their bluntness and directness. As it is a country which has the characteristics of being masculine country. Well, this is the cross-cultural characteristic of Hofstede as well. It means that it respects power and masculine traits in doing and fulfilling things and making business, like going forward, pushing, using power, using powerful methods, and the talk can also be very, very tough at times. Where Switzerland is extremely polite, cautious speakers, they are taking care not to offend, which in Russian environment will not absolutely the case. It can be quite different. They are also good listeners, and they are not expounding their ideas if they are not asked to, and they're not prying. That means not interfering into your affairs. Where in Russia, also based on its historical heritage, people very often interfere in each other's affairs, and not perhaps because of just being rude and unpolite, but because of the Second World War, where people had to help each other a lot and stay for each other and look after each other. And this very custom of being supportive to each other still has stayed in the subconsciousness and manifests itself in the daily behavior. And the third category that we have is the concept of time and space, where Russians are multitasking, as I mentioned before, deadline-oriented, and achieving the goals they set as the priority. In contrast to Switzerland, where the very great priority and emphasis is stayed on the agenda. It's like when you're going to when you're partnering with a Swiss, like as a Russian, for example, and is seeing the opportunity to complete some certain task and would ask or think, express your ideas about that, the Swiss partner might not necessarily consent to it, referring to the step in agenda that he has in his day. So every step should be done in its time. And Swiss, in this respect, are very time sensitive. They know when and what should happen, and they really follow this agenda mentality. Well, and as I mentioned before, every culture has its purpose. There is no bad or good culture, but every culture, according to the development, historical development of the country, political, economical, and ideological situation, has its traits. So culture is a tool to help the group and an individual in it to survive and succeed in their physical, political, and spiritual environment as measured by their own success criteria. So pay attention, culture is a tool. So everything that we have in our subconsciousness, the way we look at things, the way we make decisions, the way we handle with facts, the way we approach our actions, it is a tool to survive exactly in that society where we were born and grown. Here, I would like to mention the case of the World Bank, which was the organization, and it is the organization, which was founded with the purpose of fighting poverty all over the world. In the year of 2001, the American Congress reported that 60% of World Bank projects failed, and only 1% of poor countries received the help and could do something with it. All of the rest have just failed and even got worse. The emphasis was made on the African cultures and countries where half of the projects just failed into the abyss. And here is exactly what the interculturalists see as an the world. And generally speaking, poverty is, in other words, the inability to do something, inability to go forward, inability to thrive, inability to execute the experiences that one has, or the experiences of the others. In this respect, World Bank didn't pay attention that African cultures are not necessarily the ones who have the experiences of success and just becoming huge infusions of money. They were just unable to invest and use them properly. It's like when you try to teach a 3-month-old baby to walk. He has never tried, he has never trained, and it's just impossible to let him do it on this stage. So interculturalists see the problem with Africa in the two rush measures to help financially instead of developing their mindset. So World Bank intended to be a tool itself, but underestimated the most powerful tool, the mentality of the people where he wanted to act. So we go further, and here I have the pictures. Let's get a little bit interactive here. And let's get interactive and see national cultural tool of Russians. It is, of course, a joke, it's or satire. Well, that's not true, but this reflects, every joke reflects something essential about the culture. And those who don't understand Russian, it is said, this is the table plate on the door, which says, "Come in, we're used to everything." Please try to think about the features of the Russians which help them to succeed and to thrive in the country, where it has some special environment. According to this picture, what can you say about thriving abilities, surviving abilities of Russians? Svetlana, can you please read out the answers, because, well, I don't see the chat. Oh, yes, I see the chat here. Well, so I wait 30 seconds. If you don't write, I will say it myself, okay? And I will go back so that you could see what national value, what national trait is applicable. I don't see any answers yet. Well, you can still write your variants in the chat, and I will say mine. Well, okay, everybody expects everything. Yes, expects everything. It means, that's true. It means that in Russia, there is no such stability as in Switzerland, and the things, unexpected things, can be very, very, can happen just like that. Stress resistant, in the fact, that's true. That's absolutely to the point. Stress resistant. There is no security at the door. There is just a plate, come in, we're used to everything. Well, securities, stamina, stress resistance, and readiness to every turn of event. Right, so now we come to the Swiss tools, where this is a picture, the essence of which is called the only profitable trade. So what can we say about the Swiss? What helps them to survive in their culture? resilience. Well, Christian Bachmann, resilience. Is it for Switzerland or for Russia? It's sure for Russia. Okay, thank you. What national traits of Swiss tell for their survival? Well, I give you the hint here again in the table. So you can still write, and I give my own version. Swiss being perfect, striving for quality, stability, and have absolutely democratic values, have managed to make a society that thrives on the top level. And the only thing that they can bring them even more wealth is just the most wealthy, one of the most wealthiest, richest, expensive metals in the world. Tomorrow will be better than today, and we know it. Is it about Russia? CH. Yes, when we look at this history of the formation of Switzerland, these were the people who valued freedom very much, but who were not rich at first, but they valued it so much and believed that freedom will bring them deliberation and prosperity, that in the finally in the long run, they really reached that and succeeded. Thank you very much for this interactive input. Now we go further. So we come directly to corporate culture. So what is a corporate culture? Edgar Schein, the American guru of culture and leadership, defined corporate culture as the following. Actually, the curious case about him, he was born in Switzerland and even lived a couple of years in Russia, though he was whole life American. A pattern of shared basic assumptions that learned by a group as it solved its problems of external adaptation and internal integration, that has worked well enough to be considered valid and therefore to be taught to the new members as the correct way to perceive, think, and feel in relation to those problems. Well, here we are interested about basic assumptions. Well, corporate culture is the basic assumptions. It is a very complex phenomenon, the element of which is national traits of the leaders. And now we shall speak about the national traits of the leaders and the people forming the mentality of the corporate culture. Let's take three cultures and take three spheres of success from these cultures. Well, let's take Japanese manufacturing company. Well, many like Sony, for example, and they are known all over the world. And because of the Japanese concept, national concept, every mistake is an opportunity to learn. And this very concept comes from cultural programming of long-term orientation, in contrast to the Western cultures, which are short-term oriented and are interested and making emphasis on making a quick profit. The Japanese, as well as other Asian cultures, are ready to invest 10, 20, 30 years in the strategy of the company, even if the results will be in the 20 years. So they are ready to work for the future. When we take the Swiss companies, which are thriving all over the world in watchmaking sphere, this is exactly the perfectionism, punctuality, precision, and propriety, which is characteristic of the Swiss culture. And when we speak about the Russian, world-known, we speak about world-known prosperous companies. These are usually the companies who are occupied with mining and constructing heavy industries, which of course stems from the vastness of the territory of the land and of the very heavy heritage of the Second World War, where 30 million of citizens were died, and where the great construction of different equipment to level up the economy needed, and the space race also as a frontier spirit to show that we are very good equipped and it's not worth engaging in war with us again. So this is heavy historical heritage that resulted in the success of exactly these companies. So as we see, well, on the top, the vast majority of business organizations have a national culture at the heart of their corporate culture. Let's move on and speak about corporate life cycles. Organizational researchers divide even to 10 corporate life cycles, but we speak about 5 because these are quite the phases where the national traits are very relevant. So the first is innovation phase. Second, geographical expansion. It's where the company starts launching the product in the local market. Then product line expansion, when the company starts crossing the borders and involve other countries. The fourth, efficiency and scale, where it is the great growth and world competence is at stake. And the fifth is consolidation, when the company reaches the level of its utmost success. Here I have the chart of showing the 3 main periods who have in them these phases. The embryonic period, it's like a child who is born. This innovation phase, something new is taking place, and geographic expansion phase, when the new product is launched. The growth period, the company grows further, and it has product line, certain product line or product lines, and expenses on the global level, which promotes efficiency and scale. And if the company is lucky, if the company has executed everything in a smart way, it reaches the consolidation phase, which is actually very sensitive, and we'll speak about it later. So when we speak about the embryonic period, we speak about these 2 phases, innovative and geographic expansion phase. I'm not going to read all of these features which are attributive to every phase, but I would like to give you the examples how global companies succeeded on this level. So the Finnish company Nokia is a great example of the huge success, global success. And when I will be delivering you the example, please try to follow me with the features of the innovation phase and recognize them in their national culture. Finns are very independent, but they are ready to work in a group. They have a unique Finnish quality, which is called sisu. Sisu in Finnish is a combination of perseverance and overcoming adversity. That means they are ready to get into to fight when it is necessary and to endure it. So this is the culture that values comfort, design, and it is has the traits of Asian cultures of solitude, of reflection and long-term orientation. What happened with Nokia on this phase is that Nokia had a very ambitious and capable CEO who managed to summon a very talented group of people who were technicians and also designers, and they just managed to build such a harmonious work where they could produce the product which took the world market very quickly. Also, they played on the new GSM standard, which was taken by 500 operators all over the world, and they just used this know-how for producing their mobile phones. Actually, from the very beginning, it was a very small company which produced all kind of things: paper, rubber boots, rubber tires, even perhaps some chemicals in consumer electronics. And then it came to the level of mobile phones, having been capable to catch the technological innovation of GSM. Afterwards, they took the campaign which is called Connecting People. Perhaps we all remember that when we saw these mottos like Nokia is connecting people, from the businessman in New York till the farmer in India. So that was a very good work of the team, which was organized by a very talented CEO who paid very much attention to the initial process of innovation and harmonious work. So let's go to the second stage, the growth period, which comprises the phase of the product line expansion abroad and the scale and efficiency phase. So in this respect, I would like to point out the case of Sony. Sony is a Japanese company which produced at first, which took the technology of transistor and induced them into the innovation of Walkman. So nobody believed that it could be done, and even the developers said that was not meant for that, but they took the challenge and managed to do something new. And well, Sony being very, very Asian in its characteristics, like having orientation on the long-term results, has got a very strong CEO, Akio Morita, who was the CEO of Sony for 40 years, 40 long years. One should pay attention that in Japan, there is a very great hierarchy. And when you start working for the company, it's like a family for you. And you have to climb the ladder of your career very carefully. And no one will allow the junior talent, even if it is a great talent, to overplay the senior managers. So to keep all best minds, what did the Morita do? He took all the talented employees and sent them on abroad to develop international assignments for their own ideas. And when they came back, he discussed with them these ideas and showed them how they could implement them, and enabled them to carry out the ideas just in the manufacturer and in the company they worked at. So these young talents had become very great motivation and absolute satisfaction of working for Sony. So Akita Morita was a very, very untypical Japanese CEO, because he managed to use the hybrid model of the Asian culture and Western culture, where he established the relationships of very close friendship with his employees, which is not typical to Asian culture, especially the Japanese culture. And he even gave his employees and younger colleagues his phone number that they could reach them in the case of need. That is the growth period. And now we go to the last period that I would like to mention here is the consolidation phase. As I've already mentioned before, the consolidation phase is a very sensitive phase for the company to survive. Why? Because it is the maturity period where the company has reached its ceiling, so to say. It is the best in the world, or one of the best. It has a super bottom line. It has all possible development abilities, and it's just reached its dream, and the success is on the top. And here lies the risk for the board to get loose and to relax and to sink into complacency. And one of the very important principles of intercultural national traits is that they are likely to show themselves in the periods of crisis. When we are in crisis, you can very easily check it on your own self. Let's say you are in stress, or you have troubles in communications with somebody, and where you're just on the peak of stress, you are showing your own inner values, which are also based on your national values. So it is good to say, for example, for such people as me, as who has immigration background, like, I notice very vividly how the Russian in me comes forward when I have some troubles with the people in communication or solving problems. I know quite exactly what comes forward and what causes the conflict or the trouble. And the consolidation phase seems to be a phase of success, but it is at the same time the phase of crisis, because when the company doesn't develop and doesn't do anything to remain above the water or to develop further strategies, it is in the crisis because it is in the risk of falling down. And here, exactly at this phase, the CEOs get very arrogant and get stuck to their native traits, which they didn't execute during other phases, and which can be really derailing for the further life of the company. Here, I would like to show you a small extract from the movie, which is called Being There. For those who don't know the movie, I will explain very quickly. Here are three men. The one in the middle on the red chair is a president of the USA. The one on the right, which is blurred now, it is a very successful mogul of the USA, a very successful businessman, just one of the very rich. And on the left is a person, Chauncey Gardner. He's actually a very, very simple person who never went out of the house where he served as a gardener. And everything he knows is how to take care of the garden and how the things work there. So he happened to get in the outer world, in the house of that rich man, but he couldn't explain who he was. And that rich man thought he is somebody, because he wears very expensive clothes from earlier times, and he speaks slowly and metaphorically, as it seems, though everything he says is quite direct for him. But for people of this level, president and the businessman, it seems like very metaphorical and very deep. But why do I want to show this is that to show the idea that no matter where you are, the things should keep on changing. Otherwise, well, the development is just at stake and at risk. So let's see.
As long as the roots are not severed, all is well, and all will be well in the garden. Yes. In a garden, growth has its season. First comes spring and summer, but then we have fall and winter. And then we get spring and summer again.
Spring and summer.
Yes.
Fall and winter.
Yes.
I think what our insightful young friend is saying is that we welcome the inevitable seasons of nature, but we're upset by the seasons of our economy.
Yes. There will be growth in the spring.
Well, Mr. Garner, I must admit that is one of the most refreshing and optimistic statements I've heard in a very, very long time.
So I hope you enjoyed it and had a little bit of refreshment from my delivering. And we just get to the ways of improving corporate performance in a multicultural world. So on the phase of consolidation, when the company has reached its highest potential and seems to have reached it all and get it all, here we see the opportunities and much cases of mergers and acquisitions, of developing new strategies, and just taking care about what direction the company should go further to stay on the competitive level with global environment. So these are 4 main points that I would like to point out. The first, learn your national type that reflects embedded national values. We make it through the assessment test, which is showing the belonging to your which shows the level of your belonging to your national culture, as well as your psychological traits, and in where you stand as a person, as a unique person in your culture. Because we are not only the representatives of our cultures, but we are also representatives of our own psychology and of our own values. The second, identify where the company is in its life cycle. Well, especially when the company has some frictions or you have some issues to be solved, it's very essential to define where it is, because there are special principles that are attributed to every cycle. The third, establish how national culture may have enabled or derailed success at the most recent transformation point and could impact the organization at the next. In the following example, I will show what I mean. And the last one, but not the least, diagnose signs of a potential crisis of a life-threatening situation for the company. So if you manage to see the signs, it is of course the best to prevent the developing crisis. And here are the examples. So we take, of course, the countries which are interested in Russia and Switzerland, and one of the successful countries in the world, the USA, the enablers of the countries which make them go forward. Well, the enablers for the USA stemming from national traits is American dream, which is caused in super confidence, bias for action and speedy action, and bottom line focus. And all these traits can be derailers in the sense that sometimes they ignore the other cultures, they make a lot of waste, they lack patience, unlike Asians, weak at building relationship, success has bred arrogance. Now I'd like to point out one case with the Japanese company who was holding negotiations with the American company. American company wanted to use the technology of the Japanese company to build to manufacture, well, some certain equipment for the whole world. The negotiations took place in Japan, and it was very hard to reach the conclusion and to reach the agreement, because the cultures are absolutely different. They are just antagonists. How the problem was solved here? They met at the neutral territory. They met in Hawaii, where geographical environment was very similar to the Japan, and which was native to the USA. And the agreement was reached very easily in these circumstances. And another good example, which I would like to take, is the thriving company of Facebook, which bases its success on the charisma of its founder, Mark Zuckerberg, who is said to be a super talented and the genius in the organization of multicultural teams who support each other and who even instruct each other for further tasks. So that is a good example how the enablers of the US really bring the company forward. Russia. The enablers that brought Russia forward in its times, especially in the space success, is patriotism, collective spirit, vast natural resources, physical toughness because of the climate and the territories. We're well educated, especially in engineering. So as I said before, we had to construct and revive our country through the manufacturing a lot. And that what brought Russia forward. But again, under the influence of communism, our collective values don't play a really profitable part. The great distances hamper unity, uneven work tempo being multitasking, inclination to apathy, the demography that is leaves much to be desired at the moment, and dissatisfaction of populace, so the part of the populace at least, with the politics. Switzerland, banking secrecy, diversity, discipline, language skills, quality, and prosperity make them the country which is at the top level of the list of the prosperous countries. Whereas the strong currency can be a derailer. Why? Because when the world crisis hits, the stability of the Switzerland doesn't allow them to sell as many products and services as much as it could before. So that in that sense, in the case of world crisis, it could be a derailer. So there are a lot more different things to mention here. So I mentioned just the most evident ones. And to the end, I would like to give you 3 very important insights, mental insights from the systematic constructivistic approach which we use in coaching, and especially which is very good applicable for the multicultural issues. The first one, we behave according to the system to which we belong. The thing to ponder on. The second one, each person acts the way he has learned to act as he knows how to act. And the third one, we draw conclusions based on the information we have received. So I think these very simple insights bear a great message here. And here I'm finishing my presentation. Thank you all for your attention. I hope it was useful for you. And to the last, I give you some motivational slide. Let's stay open and stay agile in our multicultural interactions and